That's a D. I don't get D.
66%. That's
That's a D. That's
66%.
not passing. I don't know what
That's
they do in
66%.
fucking Vancouver, Montreal, but that's a D.
Okay, so Cujo switched us to live on YouTube now.
We're going live. Well, the builds are good.
I'm so exhausted. I don't. Hopefully, it's entertaining.
More entertaining our day today.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Actually, well, do you know, I think
See, mother's popping.
Who's it? Oh my goodness.
She's popping.
Actually, you know what? Actually, if we do the vibe,
she's a B girl too, you know. She used to.
No, I did not.
Empress, have you got your phone?
It's charging.
Okay. I was gonna say, let me see if I can show something just today. Then.
Huh?
We really no.
So you're gonna do? Oh, you're gonna show the pictures? All right. So
I think Empress has more pictures.
It's true.
See.
Because we went.
And the key lesson that we learned today is you can't do anything for Moors. Okay? Moors, we're too perfectionists. Obviously, like our greatness, our compounding greatness. We're too ungrateful. You can't do anything for Moors, right? Like I can't even take a picture for this more in terms of how him taking it with his master design eyes. Like that's trash. Why did you even take the photo more? Like that's very nice of you. He puts my phone down.
Thanks, Empress.
It just takes it elsewhere.
Thanks, Empress Aaliyah. Yeah. So anyway, so we were at the Alhambra today.
For how many hours were we at the Alhambra?
6.5, 7?
No. Because we got there at 9:30. Well, we got into the compound at like 9:35.
And we left at 4:30.
4:30 we left?
Mm-hmm. Like 4:21, yeah. But the time we got the taxi, probably a little bit late. Yeah, so it was after 4:30.
Wow. Okay, so we were there for 7 hours.
Soaking we got there earlier because we've done the ritual as well, right?
Oh yeah, so we got there. We have 8 on YouTube. Let's go.
All right, well, let me get the phone in. We ain't gonna be on there with one follower like these people.
So now we made Empress get the imagery out. It's gonna be lit. It's gonna be lit.
So we were there for 7 hours. So we did We did
that on Nazwood first, right?
Well, it's the incense, wasn't the wood.
So you talk about going through the day. Apologies, no, sorry.
Yeah. So we did a ritual before we went to burn some incense. Ah, yes. Islam, nobles. Yeah, so we first did a ritual with some incense, thanks to the ancestors. Ancestors, the creator, in all different forms. And we were, incense everywhere and everything like that. And then we went and we waited in line, and then we got onto the compound around 9:30. And all I could say is, because I've been here before, but only on the outside. I never went inside.
So he hasn't been here before. Hey, we're live. We gotta
Yo.
I've been outside your house, but I haven't been inside your house. This is late, and you wanted me to go live, so this is what we're doing. So
this is what happens when we're tired. You know what I'm saying, right?
I went there.
I don't drink
go.
anymore.
Did you not arrive?
Oh man! So this was in 2016. Yeah, that's the Mexican one.
No, that's the Mandarin.
Oh, okay, yeah. So this was in 2016. The video's up actually on Canaanland Moors a long time, like Moors in Spain or whatever. The first part. I did the first part 1 and part 2. Yeah, and then I showed like around the compound and all that stuff, right?
False advertising. But then this time, so it was as a person that's highly detailed and focused on design and the execution and just the just tapping into that thought process of what creators or artistic people are thinking of. That's very interesting to me, that are thinking of going through the process while they're going through the process of creating what they're creating, and the intricate detail of it. This place was like one of the best ways to describe it. You were in heaven. Yeah, for real. You can see the correlation between Kemet and the Alhambra, in a sense that, now I've been to Egypt proper, but not Cairo or anything like that, right? But when I went to the Louvre Museum and they had slabs in the ancient Egyptian section, which is like 4000 BCE, you see the smallest carvings in stone of a bird, like one of the birds, you know what I mean? Like literally, well, y'all are from the US, right? So what is that? Like an eighth of an inch, maybe like a centimeter or something that small in stone. And it's carved with so much detail and painted, like the wings are painted in this little tiny thing. And you're amazed at how much detail they can get in this time, like in stone. Like what instruments they're using to get that level of detail in stone and then paint it. After seeing that and then seeing this at the Alhambra and the level of detail, you see the correlation. You see like the relationship. It's almost like when they say, you know, Moors are the custodians of ancient Egyptian culture. Like we're the custodians of that. You see, just in that design language of that level of intricacy, you see it in the Alhambra, and it's everywhere. Like the calligraphy is everywhere. The sacred geometry is everywhere, and they obviously painted it, but like, okay, the paint started eroding. So in certain areas, you see the blue, you see the soups. My goddaughter.
Islam.
Danny is her name, but I call her Soups because she's a superhero.
Peace in Islam, Danny.
Yeah, so yeah, the level of the level of detail, like, okay, the color was fading, but the carvings that were done, and obviously we found out later that obviously they had to do it in molds. They were making molds and whatnot. But yeah, just man, like it's you're looking at it, and so it's carved into the stone, but then within that there's still 3D. It's 3D carved, but then there's still another layer of 3D on top of that. And then also on the flatter mosaics, some parts are heavily detailed and some parts are smooth. So that gives a level of perception of depth as well. And so picture that level of depth on a flat mosaic, and then on top of that, within that image, there's still 3D, three-dimensional protrusion of certain parts. And an entire wall is like that. You know, like, oh my gosh. Like, that's the best way I could describe it. That's what I'm saying. Like the exactly, Empress Aaliyah. Like the skill and attention to detail is so And this is why my Sakina Moore shoes are so like, I love that stuff. It's painstaking. It takes so much time, but when it's done, it looks incredible, and you're amazed. You're absolutely amazed at what is there, and it brings the viewer into whatever. Anybody who appreciates beauty, it pulls them in, and you can literally just get lost in the detail of the beauty and the not reverence, but the you revere that beauty, and you get lost in the detail and the structure and the essence of it all. And you're just marveling. And this is why we spent 7 hours there. Like, there's some people that they take the tour, and how long the tour is supposed to be?
So it's supposed to be 3 hours to visit 4 places, but you really need like an hour and a half. They say an hour and a half for the Alhambra. I mean the Nasrid Palace, like an hour and a half, which is crazy.
It's an hour and a half
For all of that.
For all of that. We spent 7 hours there.
And I think we could have arguably most probably spent more time if we were kind of, if it wasn't so hot, and most probably we had maybe decided to, or we didn't want to kind of see other parts of the palace. If we literally just decided to come in and look at a particular part. But to Brother Sheldon's point, even in the restoration, you can see that it was an interpretation, if that makes sense. We were able to kind of go through and see that when the original mind of the people isn't involved in the restoration, or you lose that skill when you have a brain drain.
But they still hired them from Morocco.
They hired them from Morocco, but it's the idea of trying to get one's child to rebuild something that the parents made, but the parents never communicated to the child what it was supposed to be, if that makes sense. After it was destroyed. So it's very much the idea of, even while we might, even though we appreciate and we love the fact that, one, it was preserved and restored, should I say. We have to appreciate that, but we also have to take that with a pinch of salt and look at also what was inserted. And why do we say that? Because obviously we then saw that with our knowledge of obviously Islamic iconography, or the lack of Islamic iconography, should we say, right? It was to the whole point that the calligraphy and the sacred geometry was our connection to the divine, and it was one of the key schisms within Islam and Islamic philosophy is the idea of non-idolatry, right? So when we were going around some of the palaces, we could see some of that besmirchment of very fundamental principles of Islam, in terms of there were Habsburg's coat of arms embedded within the tile work, which we know is
haram.
And haram, it's an abomination, right? And it wasn't only the Habsburg coat of arms and symbols. There was other, almost kind of like zodiac signs, kind of like also embedded within the artwork, which we could see that was a later influence.
Right. That was later added.
Right, it was added. And even there was, at one point, there was a whole roof that had literally just been attached on top of, the outside gardens that we went to.
Yeah.
And it was for Isabel and Ferdinand. And you just look at it, and
it looks horrible.
It just doesn't match the aesthetic.
It doesn't,
right?
It doesn't,
it's like it's like taking a medieval castle and cutting certain aspects of it and trying to graft it to a mosque. It was very, very weird. But I say that to say, in terms of, that's part of the trick bag, right? It's part of the preservation, in terms of how can you, and we had a conversation, and we're going to get into it. We had so many different conversations, but the final conversation we actually had with a Moroccan from modern day Maghreb, should we say, in the shop just down below our accommodation.
Yeah.
It was we were talking about the same point, in terms of when it's not when it doesn't belong to someone else, they don't know how to reverence it, they don't know how to appreciate it. But also when it gets ruined, that's when they realize, oh, we've lost something. And usually the only thing that brings it back is the allure of monetary gain. So Emperors is just, and now the roof that we were just speaking about, the ceiling that we were speaking about that was added, this is what it looks like. And as you might be able to see just over on the left-hand side of the image, or it's going to be the right-hand side of the image in terms of where you're looking at it, you can see some of the stonework on the actual side of the wall, so the original. But what you're looking at on the ceiling is actually what was added later in terms of the reconstruction. You can see it's completely juxtaposed.
You see the double-headed eagle, and is it double-headed or single?
No, it's a single-headed, right? So it's still showing them, they're still showing the empire unified underneath that mindset, wherever it was, right? But that before the schism. So the schism further took away from some of this rich culture and history. But as you can see, move it a little bit. So just over here, you can see where there's the split between the wall and also the ceiling. They look like, if we didn't say what it was, it could be two completely different images, or you'd most have to ask us, how did those styles come together? And that's very much how I'd say I viewed the Alhambra, in terms of it was an amalgamation of mindsets.
Yeah.
And some of those mindsets hadn't quite cohesively come together, and you could see it, and you could kind of feel that fractious nature, even in some of the people. Because we always go about in terms of sometimes you being in habit or Moors just being themselves, you evoke some emotional reaction in individuals, and they don't know what it is. It's that energy, that presence. And I'll yield in a second. I'll hand over to Empress or Brother Sheldon again. Never more than before than when I went to the Alhambra that I experienced that energy, the shift, the heaviness, the move. We did something today. I don't think we most probably will feel the connotations maybe immediately, but we certainly shifted an energy because we went there with an intention. From the moment we walked, before we got in there with the ritual, till the moment we left, there were so many different people that we touched, that touched us. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So with that, I yield. But it was a surreal experience. Certainly a surreal experience.
Yeah, it was. There was definitely. Which one's this? Which one's that?
That was the ritual. So that was
that's the ritual that I was saying. Yeah, so we burnt some incense, like I was saying at the beginning. There's definitely an energy of that place when I could, I'll speak for myself, and then the others can add on. So Cujo, you asked how much was it? It was 18 euros as a pass.
Without a tour guide.
Without a tour guide. Yo, this tour guide tried to finesse us. She comes to us, and she's saying how when you get inside, it's good to have a tour guide, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. I guess she heard us speaking, and tries to finesse us, saying 45 euros a person. And she said, yeah, but it's a private tour and you bypass all the lines and all this stuff. And we just looked at each other like, yeah, all right, deuces. So yeah, when you get in there, there's definitely an energy of the place. Like when I was walking, you could feel the tranquility of the place, the way it's laid out. There's people like clipping the hedges and the bushes and all that, but there's an essence to the place where I found myself, when I was walking, I would close my eyes and just try to absorb and feel the essence of the place. And it's definitely how do I explain the energy? It's just different. I think that's the best way it's just different. And it's different in different areas as well. Like when we got to like the interior, it was just so fascinating. When we got to like the fountain and it's just something to see what our ancestors built.
They're clipping the hedges.
Clipping the hedges, yeah. It's just that's what you saying? What Kujo say?
They're clipping the hedges on highways.
Oh man. What did he say? You can't explain what you are on it. Yeah, that's true.
Oh, this is a better one. I'm trying to snake no screenshots even.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It was just amazing. And the interaction, brother, is
long, brother is.
And the interaction that we got from, you see, you hear me saying it all the time. It's important to travel, like, and we say it all the time. And like, I give thanks for the different places that I've traveled to, and I always strive to pick up part of the language and to remember it, and I tend to. And so, as an example, a woman from Korea came up to us, and they were talking. She was asking about the headdress and so on. We broke it down and whatnot. And she said she was from Korea. And I said, "Oh, I've been to Busan." And she said, "Okay." And then it didn't really hit her. And then when I said "안녕하세요," I said hello in Korean. Then she was like, "Oh." And then one of the groups said, "Yeah, I'm from Busan," you know what I mean? And they came up and we just started talking. And just by saying hello in her language, and there's a couple other words I know how to say, "How are you?" "Thank you," "You're welcome," so on and so forth. That just opened up an entire interaction where they wanted to take pictures of us and they were asking us questions and vice versa. And this is this is the importance I find anyways of, as somebody who travels, taking the time to, when you go to somebody else's culture, pick up some of it and remember it. As simple as like when I've gone to China, working with the factories. Yeah, that's the Korean.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Korean.
When I've gone to factories, I was the only one. So I've gone with when I was freelancing for a Swedish company, I'd go with them to these factories. I was the only one that specifically asked the Chinese workers or the Taiwanese workers their real names. And I wanted to learn their real names. And I remember I wrote it down, and you know what I mean? And I asked them how to say it properly. And then the next time I went, I'd use their real names, and they gave me so much respect. And we're talking about like from 2013 or whatever, all the way down to 2018 until my contract ended. To the point where last year, no, it was February this year, I think. It's earlier this year. There's a trade show that happens in Munich, and they always come and so they'll send me, they haven't seen me in a while. They sent me an email. They'd love to see me, so on and so forth. They're exhibiting. They gave me the address. So I went to see them, and I was calling, I was saying hi to them in their real names, and they were like, oh. And they looked at me and said, "Did you look in your book to because they knew that I wrote them down." I said, like, "Did you look in your book to get a reminder?" I'm like, "No, I just remembered." And they love that. That's their culture, because normally they have to change their appellations, you know what I mean, so that it sounds more European or whatever like that. but you remembering their appellation is very important to them. And so that's what happened with the woman from Korea. And and then she left, and then she came back. Like there was a revelation, and she went to did she ask Empress, or
she went straight to Empress.
Yeah.
And she goes, I spoke to you before. Are you Sufi? And Empress said, yes. And that sparked a whole different conversation. This lady was this woman in orange. She was a tour guide. And she She was a tour guide of the group that we previously took the picture with. She left her tour group to come and seek out Empress specifically to ask her that question. And we could tell there was certainly an affiliated energy there. And I know Empress is looking for some photos right now. She wanted to add some more. But there was such a homage and a reverence. She bowed 4 times.
Yeah.
After we'd taken the photo, she was so humbled to be in our presence and so honored. And we were honored to be in her presence as well. It was a truly surreal experience. But I don't know if Empress wanted to add some more.
I guess I will. I think it's important, and I was trying to look for that picture because I was hearting all the ones that we had today. It's so honorable. It's such a responsibility to have someone that you're just interacting with. And when I'm describing to her the importance of universal ancient culture and how each civilization in their own way does give homage to the previous civilizations. Like you do it through art, literature, propaganda, whatever. And I was talking to her about science, literature, poetry, and we were talking about Sufism and the mysticism as the root. And I was like, that's how we have all of this. In order to have a civilization that is innovative and industrious, and some of us need to remember and heed Prophet Noble Drew Ali's words about not being a beggar nation. In order to foster building large projects and building universities and building schools and making sure that you have clean water and making it a place where people can come and feel comfortable. You can't be rigid and dogmatic and full of these closed-minded, fearful ideas. So our ancestors were many things, but in order to have this civilization, at least in this time and space here, at Granada in particular, they had to be open-minded and creative and listening to ideas that were new or that may have challenged the old ideas. So oftentimes when I hear Moors, it's because we stand from a position of lack. And so when I had this conversation with her and we were chatting, just trying to make it comfortable, make it seem like we're all a part of the same human family experience, whatever. But she took that. And I forgot what I said. And when she came back and she was so gracious and you just felt it. And she's like, I want to thank you. And I was like, no, thank you for having the courage to come back and share this experience with us. So it's very intimate. And these are the things that, and we said, we're going to start taking pictures and putting them online just to show. And we're going to connect with these people. We're going to try to get their social media. We're going to find ways to build relationship with our like-minded brothers and sisters all over the world, because this is something that happens and it starts with just 1 or 2 people. And I think we have at least, 14 or 15 images. We only have the identity details of a few people, but find what you can do that uplifts fallen humanity, that works for you, that doesn't cost anything. Your national and birthright are free. So we found something that can work for us in one of the ways that we want to do this. So I don't know. It was very gracious. And in those moments, you want to make sure that you accept and honor what they're also offering, because we're in the middle of a place of strangers and she's coming forward to have this intimate moment in front of strangers. So I would have loved to invite her to dinner tonight. I really feel like we should have gotten her details, but it's not on your floor.
Yeah. She ran out quick.
Yeah, because that was her payday. She's like, oh, I love my clients.
Yeah. So she said, thank you. And I was like, kamsahamnida.
Kamsahamnida.
Kamsahamnida means thank you in Korean. She's like, oh, thank you. Kamsahamnida. And the other one said, and then we took some pictures. People from Mexico.
Oh my goodness.
Yo.
Is this him or no?
Yes.
That's Brethren.
That's him. Grabbed us and like, yo.
He manhandled Asanaya.
I was being accosted before I even realized it. But he came over with his whole. Actually, no, that was the.
No, it's not him.
No, that was.
Because
that was the Syrian. That was the Syrian.
Oh, that was
okay,
the
that was
Syrian.
Muhammad.
Yeah. I've got the Mexican here that came over with his whole family. This one, yeah.
Is this one?
We saw this man and his family before we entered the first palace, right? Before we entered the Nazareth Palace, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And his family were kind of going through the group entrance just by the side of us. We never paid any attention or notice of each other. It's until we kind of got to the I'd say a central area. Islam, brother, is we got to a central area and we were able to
Islam, but
there was a water feature and kind of like the inner garden, should we say, of the El Nazareth Palace. And before we kind of got into the inner room, I don't know what the energy was within that kind of small, like concave room, but there was love and power and energy in there, because the moment we entered there, this man was the first one to come up. No, sorry, the Empress was the first one to come up to us. The Korean Empress was coming. And then after this man came up, and he was affiliated, he was Mexican, and he came over and he goes, his daughter came over actually. He sent his daughter to us and he goes, hey, my dad would like to take a picture with you. He's very familiar with the headdress, and he said he loves African culture. And then we acknowledged, but we kind of corrected it in terms of it's not only African culture, it's a universal global culture. And he goes, yes, I know. And I asked it instantly. I said, are you a Mason? He said, he smiled. He said to me and brother,
oh, you did?
Yeah, straight up.
Okay.
Right there.
Okay.
Because
I didn't know that.
when they are familiar with because these things aren't hidden when it comes to certain cultures. Brother Sheldon also had a conversation with a Moroccan, right? But he was there with his wife. Turkish or Moroccan? Was he Turkish? No, Turkish.
Turkish,
and he
Turkish,
said the tarbouche. He goes, oh, I know that the tarbouche, the fez.
Yeah.
And Brother Sheldon's like, oh yeah, it's been banned in Turkey for quite a while. He goes, yeah, it's not banned anymore, but it's kind of still frowned upon. So having these cultural references, these cultural contexts, it allows other people to feel accepted. Because if you can imagine a lot of these speculative Masons or other affiliated international travelers or merchants or so on and so forth, they learn these things in the dark and the dead of night, should we say. They have all these agreements and so on and so forth. And in their mind, and I'm sure that they will never have to perform the contract. They will never, ever have to perform on the contract, but they're well aware of the terms. So when you're in your proper person, or you are aware, you might not be aware of the entirety of the terms and conditions of that contract, but you're aware that there is something that needs to be performed on. Everybody feels easy. Everybody feels at rest. And there's just an energy. And I will say one thing before I yield. Moors, we need to accept that we did a great job and also a not so great job in some of our ancestral work, because we can still see that blueprint of indoctrination, that blueprint of obedience in our travels. And I'll speak for myself, having been to South America, domiciling in Europe, and having traveled around Europe, you can see the different cultures and how I'd say that Moorish legacy have manifested in these different jurisdictions and what it means to these people. So again, for me today, it was just an experience. I got to learn so much more about myself by learning about other people. And again, breaking down and really truly understanding my own understanding by speaking to others. Right. Someone coming at you with a slightly left angle, basically using a terminology. and I'm gonna let Empress.
Oh my goodness.
Empress.
Oh my goodness.
Dropped a mini PhD lecture in 45-degree heat in uncomfortable conditions with children running around while someone was trying to touch her luck. Empress was out here just nunchucking and delivering such erudition. It was unbelievable to someone that you could clearly see that in this individual's life, he doesn't get challenged anywhere. He is the authority of knowledge.
Right.
But this is the same man that didn't know the origins of. He said that Britain, the first map, the first world map, should we say, was created in 724 in Brittany.
762.
Was it 762? 762 in Brittany.
And all three of us looked at each other like brother.
But because there's so many questions to ask, but in terms of fact is, how is Brittany? Who gives it the identity of Brittany? How? And Empress just asked a quick question in terms of fact is, how do people with no cultures become cartographers? How do they create maps? If you can't read or write or wash yourself, how can you navigate? Right? So I'll yield here and I'll let her hand over to Empress because I don't want to put any words in her mouth, but when I tell you erudition, and this man was a polyglot, by the way. This man spoke 4 different languages? At least 4 different languages.
English, Mandarin, French,
and Spanish.
Yeah.
And he clearly had some of his degrees. Whether he paid for them on the weekend and he skipped the actual course material that you needed, the compendium, we don't know. But he definitely thought he had some source that he could come out and start doing some stuff. He was put well within his box, and arguably he lived in that crypt until we left the Alhambra, but it's okay. I'll yield and hand over to Empress.
Oh, and just a quick note. Please share this live right now so that we can get more people in here. All right? Do your thing.
Yeah. Islam. So I do my best to come with an open heart and an open mind when I'm communicating, especially with people from other cultures. And in particular, when you're dealing with men, right? Especially Europeans. So he was fine until he said, until we discovered the Americas. No, sir. So his first concern was a reference. And I said, well, we don't need to do anything else. We can just use the Journal of Christopher Columbus or whoever that was. And then the goalpost moves in the conversation. Oh, well, something about the, it's almost like a kilt.
Tartan.
The tartan.
That was even later in the.
Oh, well,
yeah.
You know, in the space, so it's not necessarily a recount of what happened. The key things are when communicating, it took a minute for us to try to figure out in particular, I'm like, well, how can I make somebody understand and what's the reference points? So for the Mexican family, I said the Toltecs and the Olmecs. Oh my God, yeah. So when I was talking with the South Korean woman, we were talking about taking your shoes off at the front door. We were talking about, that's when I said initially about Sufism and poetry and da. So when you're talking to people, you want to find a space for them to have a reference point to feel comfortable with. So it took probably like 4 or 5 minutes, us in the heat, me speaking, Sheldon and Asanaya speaking. And then he had nowhere to go in the conversation because for me, I'm a communicator and I want to make sure that people are clear because this is our culture and this is a great opportunity for us to be able to explain it and find a common ground. And pretty soon you can figure out he wasn't really interested in getting reference points or literature review, whatever. So he's like, well, Moors didn't exist in Britain at this time. And I said, well, that's when I think I made the comment about cartography. I said, well, if you don't have a culture, you're not able to read or understand what maps are. I said, well, if you were discoverers and you had the ability to explore, why wouldn't you navigate your own ships? Why did it take Moors to navigate you to the Americas? No response. fine. So at some point, I think I just pivoted out because he's not wanting to understand, and I am not going to be. It's too hot for me to be arguing with you about something you understand. You don't understand. So Sheldon is making a valiant effort. Well, let me show it. I'm like, oh. And so Asaniah makes an attempt. And then my ringer went off and I said, oh, he wants to hear about Gaul.
Yeah.
So he was like Greek and Rome. And I'm like, that's still not a pale troglodyte. So this is not Minoans. This is not like these are not Etruscans. And even so, it's still not your culture. I was like, there's no definition of a European culture. It's Moorish. I'm bringing you science, literature, technology, architecture, how to wash and brush your teeth and not have the animals in your bedroom. How some of the Moors have violated their own stuff, right? So in this idea, how do you understand anything? And you can't even have people that identify under a title that a colonizer is giving you. So you're saying that these people are, from Gaul when they don't even acknowledge that the Roman Empire is over them. Remember, we talk about jurisdiction. So the long of the short of it was, I had to tell him, how can you tell me about my culture when obviously you don't even know that the Tartarian Empire is the reason why that exists? Or the idea of Scotia from Scotland comes from Kemet or Egypt. You don't even know what you're talking about. And so he's like, and so that's how I know you've already lost when you're trying to answer my question with the question. Well, don't you mean, what if I could learn more about your culture and teach you about it? You don't even know what you're talking about today. So how do you know about my culture? This is the arrogance. This is a warden. This is a person that is trying to dominate or control you. These are people that look like us, that wear turbans and fezzes, or that are Europeans or whatever. So it doesn't matter his hue, his spirit wasn't right. How many people that are proclaimed and declared Moors that don't have a proper spirit? Or they don't function on the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So like in that process, when you're interacting with someone and you're trying to communicate, you have to make, like, what is it that I can use? So if it's language, is it a reference? Is it something, or it could just hit me divinely and I speak it and I don't even know that's what I was supposed to be saying, but that's the spirit that comes through, right? So we've had like 97 or 98% great positive experiences. Mm-hmm. And then you have something where it reminds you that every weak mind, when we came in, and this is a part where I'm going to talk about communication and I'll transfer it back. On the website, so when I was at the Alhambra here in Granada and Andalusia in 2017, I was a part of a tour group, and they were like, don't bring your backpack, leave it on the tour bus. So this time I'm like, well, on the website, it says, well, if you have a decent to middle-sized bag, you might have to put it in a cloakroom. Okay, cool. We go through, they don't have proper security. Like, I'm like, I don't know what the fudge they're doing, because this is embarrassing. We get all the way to the gate. The guy, like, not even looks in the bag. He's like, you're good. Go ahead. We're like, okay, we're late. We're just trying to get through. We get to the first part of the room of the palace. And this guy comes around the corner. Was that Martin Lawrence when he was a security guard? Is it Ross? What's not Roscoe? What's the character for Martin Lawrence when he was the big fat security guard? If y'all ever seen Martin.
Oh, I don't remember.
Anyway, he had that energy where he was like kind of awkward and he's very aggressive and he takes his job very serious, which is fine. He's on this walkie-talkie like he's the Secret Service trying to protect Donald Trump. He's like, we have security, we have an issue. Like, he goes up to 8-foot tall Asaniah and's like, you need to put your back on your front. Like, good morning, how are you? Whatever. So he's mad that Asaniah, he should know, Asaniah is not going to just do what you say just because you say it. So he's frustrated. We're talking about communication, right? National security at our ancestral estate, but it's cool. And so all of a sudden, everybody with a backpack, they start moving their stuff to the front so nobody has an issue. So he leaves and goes away. We're trying to calm Asaniah down, which is a task.
Mm-hmm.
I would say 10 minutes later, the guy is done. Whoever he's trying to snitch on does not want to deal with him. You know, you've had an employee or coworker like that. Always snitching, just trying to bother you. Like, just leave me alone. Another tour guide comes to bother me because I guess I'm in his way while I'm taking a picture. He's like, excuse me, I don't move because I'm taking a picture. Like, how rude are you? And so because he has nothing else to say, he says, your backpack needs to be on the front. So, well, I have a camera here. I'm sorry to hear that you're upset. Have a good day. So I finish and go wherever. So like when you're having these conversations, because they see this, it's a trigger for some of them. Just like when we have Asiatics that have the same trigger. So saying all that to say, when you're communicating with people about our culture, you're going to have an equilibrium that is very important. Sometimes you're going to have to challenge people respectfully and giving pushback to give them a reference point. We had an interaction with a brother, working class guy who from Morocco, who's worked hard. He's brought his wife on vacation, and for him to come where he came from to come to vacation, he saved up some money to work hard. Everybody doesn't have the same education or erudition. We know that. We all have different degrees, but he was wanting to get sources. He took pictures. He basically took his wife's cell phone to take pictures of the books that we were referring him to. He's like, I've never heard this before. I said, well, the Fez is older than Morocco. He's like, okay. And I said, well, you know that this existed in Kemet. I said, there's a statue of Narmer who united North and South, right? Lower and Upper Egypt. And he has a tarbush on. This is at least 5,000 years ago. That changed the conversation. And then I showed him some of the Olmec heads where you can see they have the tassel on the side. I didn't even show him the braids in the back of the thing. Conversation was different. He's trying to understand how Maghrib al-Aqsa is in the Americas and in the adjoining islands. He's trying to understand. But seeing the Olmecs, who are, as far as we know today, the mothers and fathers of what we consider ancient American culture. Now, there are groups that have been around, but we don't have any evidence of what they provided. And one of the things that I dinged somebody else on earlier today when they kept saying, what is Moorish? They were trying to be funny. And I said, well, Morocco is a French word. He got mad at me. He was in his feelings. So a lot of the amalgamated experiences that we've had, for some of them, they try to come in kind of funny or try to come in as a joke. And I'm trying to say, well, your identity is based off of a French word. Now, if you ever do go to Morocco and the kingdom, they speak more French than they do Arabic, just so you know. Yeah. I think it's actually the official language.
Yeah.
So for those of you trying to run over there to Morocco, hey, great. I've already been there. We can have a conversation after you go, how you enjoy it. So in the process of communicating, you just want to figure out what's a reference point. How can I make somebody feel comfortable? What do I know about their culture that will make them open up and feel comfortable chatting with me? Make sure that you're also comfortable being uncomfortable and challenging people, to have a course correction about how can you discover something that existed before your country existed. We have pyramids that are older than anything that you're talking. Like, what are you talking about? Stonehenge? That's what you're telling me? Stonehenge. It's still Celtic. It's not your culture. Yeah. It's actually, it has Saracen. They're called Saracen stones. The stones are Saracen. So we're talking about this, and you could see it was like I was dunked. If you ever seen Vince Carter dunk, if those of you need to Google YouTube Vince Carter, like Vince Carter top 10 dunks. Like and I, love basketball, just that type of energy. And it's just like, I'm just looking at this guy like, what are you talking about?
And you mentioned Gaul, and that's what kind of shut him up, because he was talking about, you mentioned the conversation was going where he was talking,
He was like the Greeks and the Romans.
Right, in France or something like that. And then he said there was no France.
Oh, no.
There, something like that.
Asinaya was saying that France was a part of the Iberian Peninsula. And that's what started that part of the conversation.
He said that
that's what it was.
France didn't exist.
And then you were just like, okay, well,
France was never part of Iberia.
Right.
And that's what, yeah.
And then you were just like, okay, so let's go to Gaul.
Right. So I was like, okay, so remember etymology, right? So what's a reference point? And I said, this is a problem with indoctrination, right? I don't care if you have letters or whatever. And he's obviously he's intelligent because he speaks more like, I'm not saying he's brilliant, but I'm saying he has the ability to communicate multiple languages. He's intelligent. He's limited by the restrictions of what he thinks he knows.
And when he was saying how, when we were discussing the discovered aspect, and you see discovery, and then so he mentioned it in French. It's like, découvrir is discovered in French. I said, yeah, but it's like trouver. You found it. You didn't discover it. And he's trying to say it's they're the same. You know what I mean? They're relatively. I was like, they're not the same. There's one that. Discovered means something different than found. They're related, but they're not the same thing.
And to that point, I said to him, how is it possible for you to discover something that predates you? If people are living there, how can you discover? It's like, well, what if I go to a restaurant? Going to a restaurant is not going to a civilization.
And I gave the example to the point. I said that it's like Marco Polo trying to say that he discovered China. He didn't.
Or that pasta is Italian.
Or pasta, that was actually, you're completely right. I actually gave the example through the food and the culture, because that's where we're at. I was like, it's like after Marco Polo, in his turn, of discovered China, he brought back noodles. It's like trying to come back and say that pasta didn't derive from noodles. And it was interesting because his wife was Oriental. She was Manchurian, right? He has amalgamated Manchurian children, and they were there with the progenitors, like the grandparents as well. So just I say that, and I'll yield the point in terms of finding that cultural reference to Camelback off Empress's point. It actually showed, going to the point I was saying earlier, it tests your understanding. It shows your own erudition, because there was, forget the points, forget the books that were given, the actual source material. He was trying to do
and then I started getting and then
hold on. So Sheldon being our ever frustrated diplomat. So we're gonna get a t-shirt called Sheldon the Frustrated Diplomat. Like, he's ready to show his nationality card. He's ready to be like, well, I have some reference points. The joke didn't even take out his phone like he was gonna write down the books or take a picture of the books. It's like, and this unexpected face, and I was like, this dude doesn't care about. He wants to try to prove a point. I have blocked his shot like old Mutombo, like finds a good old Mutombo block shots.
Because he kept talking about Britain. So I said, okay, then
Newfoundland. Remember when he
went to Newfoundland as well?
Went to Newfoundland, right? And I said, but who was next to them in Doggerland? I said, like, who seeded that area?
Because he didn't know. And this is the point that I want to make, and I'm gonna move it back to and yield the floor. So the more that we know, when we have done our due diligence and put in our time in our studies, the easier these conversations are, because now we can go wherever which way you want to do. We can do offense, we can do defense, we can be positive and polite and loving, or we can be aggressive with love, because that first principle of love means I have to correct you. You can't discover something when you can't even navigate the ship. How can you discover something when you can't read a map? Right. Oh, well, the first map, 762, that's a Moor. That's not a pale face. Where are you coming from? There's no unified identity of a European at this time. And so this is the point, and you can just see, like, he's just getting smaller and smaller, because in his mind, he's never been challenged. And all of a sudden, it's me doing it. Not disrespectful. I'm not cursing at him. I'm asking proper questions. My grandma told me, ask. What did it tell you in church? And see, what asking you, what was it?
Asking you shall receive.
Jackson, you were received. So you telling me about culture, but you can't even give me a point where you've been the leader of. I said, well, what do you have in the language? What have you produced in technology or in marriage or in architecture? What about math and science? What were you the leaders of? How can you be the mother fathers of civilization when you don't have a culture? Respectfully. Prove that you don't. Prove me that you do. And so in this point when we're having this, well, it was supposed to be a discussion.
You're flaming them.
When you're trying to take a dig, or when you're trying to be funny, or it's like you're trying to correct me about the skirt or this actual part of the proper culture. It's the empire that existed. I was like, look at the architecture in Russia and Eastern Europe.
Right? Shut it down.
Conversation is over.
Conversation was over. You blanked him. Like he could had nothing to say after that.
Like Tartan.
Once you took it to Russia,
Tartarian,
it was done.
And this is why we're saying for people that have the time and the finance and the ability, maybe your children are getting older, you're about to retire, or however you want to do it. When you see it and have the conversation, most of the time we don't have these conflict engaging situations. Most of the time it's all love, but you got to be ready, because this is what the ancestors had to do. Who are you to come in here tell me you discovered something when we don't know where you came from?
Well, better yet, telling me you're protecting our national heritage, our national
right.
Meanwhile, you got children playing in the bloody fountains, and you got people doing graffiti outside the walls and all manner of nonsense.
Right.
And so in just saying that, just that relief of, I remember Sheldon, we were on stereo 4 years ago, and he was saying that he was going, this is the frustrated diplomat. Yeah, we're going to trademark hashtag copyright, thefrustratedDiplomat.com. That's your website. He was on some room where they were talking dirty about Moors. I don't know if it was Hebrews or whoever the people were. And he was saying that people that used to listen to us, we would be on there for freaking hours on a Saturday, that they were not defending Moors or trying to stand up for Noble Drew Ali or speak truth when it's uncomfortable. And again, the prophet said, all you have to do is proclaim and declare. You don't got to try to be out here trying to talk tough. You can't be Cujo. And please don't try to be that. And in that process, nobody said anything. They just let them disrespect Moors or disrespect the prophet. That's not the principle of love. That means it's got to be uncomfortable. We got to have a courageous conversation about how you disrespected my prophet and my culture. When somebody disrespects your mama or your child or your partner, you find a way to handle it. But in a situation where we're going back to reclaim, like we literally had a ritual like 15 to 20 minutes ago, and that energy is like, they're trying to kick us out before we even get in the front door. Mm. So just be ready to do that. So again, find what you can do, be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and you're going to have to speak up at some point. And again, you want to be doing stuff to prepare your progeny and offspring 7 generations in advance. And you're going to have to speak up at some point. And there are going to be people trying to come for you. But again, it's divine in just 14 years of erudition, and obviously honors to the ancestors and the prophet, for being able to immerse myself in culture, apply it, and live according to the principles, and keep the prophet out front. This isn't about an ego. This is ancestral battle. You don't even have standing to be talking to me. For real, for real. And he understood that. That's why it hurt his feelings, unfortunately. I yield the floor.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just
lesson called cutting through.
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, that was interesting too. And then when I started naming off the books that he could read,
because first one went over his head, whoop, whoop.
And because he's talking about Britain, so I said like ancient and modern Britain's volume 1 and volume 2, right?
Ancient Modern, Volume 1 and Volume 2, like, Saga America, America BC, Unexpected Faces, the Time Walker, like all these different books, they're talking about it.
I even mentioned Golden Age of the Morning.
We're not
more stuff.
Nothing more stuff
because
because I'm thinking if you give him the more stuff, then he'll be like, okay. So I'm just giving him stuff that Europeans wrote about it, and he wasn't interested. But Empress shut it down when she took the kilt, and we didn't get into like the Celtics, the Siths, the Huguenots, we didn't get into any of that. She just took it over. Empress just took it over, and she said, like, once she brought the kilt and the
no, funny enough,
this is his mother-in-law right here. This is the one that was trying to take my locks and wrap them around herself. That was very
I had
interesting.
to move her hand.
She's trying to literally wrap them around. Like, think about that coil. She's trying to wrap it around herself.
And I had to move her hand. And then when I said hi in Chinese, I said hi in Chinese to her. She, okay.
Right. But also, so this is the interesting part, and Empress, and I'll interject this in there, right? Because we must never let this be forgotten as Moors, that we always love the energy of the balance, right? Like, this was a group of Moroccans. So I'll go through this. So to the Empress standing right next to me, and I'll go back to the other story about the other family in just a second. The Empress standing right next to me engaged in the conversation just randomly when we were on our way to a different part of the Alhambra. And she engaged in the conversation, speaking about the tarbouche and just asking about the fairs and so on and so forth. And
Chuck, my friend Chuck, one of the best friends in Nuremberg.
Islam Chuck.
Like, Michael is his name. Michael's the name I call him.
Islam Michael. And that was the reference point. We were able to start the conversation. While we were engaged in the conversation, this is another young Moabite okay, so she was with her mother and father. Her mother and father didn't want to engage. Her father even walked off. Her mother was frustrated with her. I think they were just trying to leave. It had nothing to do with us. This young Empress had enough forethought to listen in on the conversation that was being had, to see something she recognized and she was interested in. And she came over and she goes, "Are you from Morocco?" And Empress responded, and she gave her the familiarity. She asked if she could take a picture with us. So we had two sets of Moroccan, and I think that they were Persian or Algerian, so we didn't get a confirmation. We had three sets of people essentially back to back trying to take photos. We had to stop other tourists going through the Alhambra just to co-opt them into becoming our photographers, because there's so many people that wanted to take pictures. Yeah. It's because it's not, I'm being honest with you, Moors, and then I'll go back to the other story, because that's the real point. This can either be this is an invitation or a badge of integrity, but this does invite challenge. I need you to understand that. It invites so much challenge, and the challenge isn't for you. So I don't take it personally. It's an opportunity for you to show who you are, but the challenge will come. So I often use the terminology, at some point, someone will try and pull your card. Are you erudite enough to hold on to it? Right. Because the last thing that you want is a modern European to pull your card just on the day that you slipped on a banana skin, you weren't quite up to it, right? You don't need to go so extensive. Simple reference points. Find the breadcrumb. It's kind of like the philosophy. If we can agree on these two axioms, or we can agree on these 2 points, I can explain everything else to you. You have to find that breadcrumb. And going back to the point Brother Sheldon was making about the kilt reference point. So I need you to understand that Empress, it might come to it. Empress doesn't challenge. She didn't challenge this man. He came to us and to the. Anytime he interacted with Brother Sheldon or I, he entered into like a listening mode. He was like a child. There was still a bit of back and forth, but there wasn't as much fire. Like he never once, he rebutted what I said, but he checked his tone when he viewed, for some reason, and this is again that modern European, the idea of thinking they can have the scimitar over mother, correct? The idea of raising fallen humanity. He thought Empress was the one. And Empress did by no stretch of the imagination needed our protection in any way, shape, or form.
Shut him down like quick.
So we were able to kind of, again, this dynamic of us being together, it's divine. We, Brother Sheldon, being the frustrated diplomat, me being, I'm diplomatic, but like,
Are you?
Oh no.
Okay, now, wait a minute.
I can be diplomatic. It just depends. I'm more diplomatic to the mothers and the Moabites.
Anybody, anyone who just glanced in his direction for more than maybe 1.5 seconds. What's up? What are you looking at?
No, don't give that. No. Let's clarify that more. No, I'm not an oddity. So I operate with a respect first sort of policy. I give people enough rope to hang themselves, if you understand the terminology.
Within 1.5 seconds.
No. In terms of, that means that you get 100% respect from me, and it's yours to lose. That goes with strangers and my loved ones. We are international travelers. We are cultured individuals, should we say. We are Moors. We're also entrepreneurs, business leaders, right? If I say hello to you in your language, I find a reference point for us to connect, and you still choose to behave like a peon, and as if you're uncivilized, I will treat you like the uncivilized peon you are. And I will then ask the question in terms of who raised you. Where is your education? No, where is your erudition? Because the idea of, we often come into this movement, and it's been said to me, I think I'm the newest, again, on this panel, you've seen me a few times, but the question is, or the common assumption is that modern Europeans or pale-faced, whoever it is, seems to know more than you, or seems to know who you are more than you are.
Shit.
They do not.
Shit.
And most of these excuses, most of these interactions are excuses. Why? They're excuses for you to be weak. And I'm challenging all Moors. Why? Because there is no space for antagonism or quote unquote modern day racism. It's the space that you leave. It's when someone tries to touch your hair and treat you like an oddity.
Yeah, I didn't like that, man.
It's when someone tries to come up to your skin and they try and oh, is it going to come off? It's when you don't check them and put them back in their place, because they're the animal, they're the troglodyte, they're the one that was raised out of bestiality. And when you don't check them and put them back into their place, it allows for all manner of nonsense to run amok. So I'm glad that I have, again, the balance of energy. When I'm usually, I most probably wouldn't have to engage. I'm the chill right? One. I don't have to engage in the way that I do. But again, it's 2024, Moors. If you're not going to stand in your square, who is?
Oh, period.
And there are so many centuries, eons, that are willing to stand on your square, and they can't do it properly. It's uncomfortable for them. But you can't kick them off on unless you're truly willing to stand on it properly. So I'll say hello to you, but I'll then ask you the question, is there something wrong with your eyes? Fix them properly and adjust them accordingly.
Take him off. He's just...
No, so I say this thing, the actual message before I was distracted, because you know what I mean?
Well, your anger kicks in.
No, we have to clarify. We have to clarify. I mean, ain't shit sweet out here.
Can we do a commercial break? Can we come back after commercial?
To the point, in terms of brothers, I'll say this, Moors, we need to do a better job of protecting our Moabites. And I mean it in terms of not in the actual interactions. We need to build that. We need, in our actions and our deeds and in our construction of the world, we need to build that blanket of protection around our family. Oh, I'm molten lava more. I'm double fire with the earth sign. I'm molten magma. But yeah, double Leo.
Yeah, you were goddamn.
So I say this to say in terms of there should never be a time where anybody feels comfortable to try and impress themselves or to try and bully or to condescend our empresses. Who the hell are they? If we are the sons of civilization, how can someone check our mother? in our presence.
I say to that.
Right? So I say this the same was in terms of if we're still having interactions where anybody from any culture lacks the understanding, because when we go to other cultures, for example, you go to a Russian, are you allowed to go and check a Russian's woman without? No.
Nope.
You go to any other culture, what other culture allows you to address their children or their counterpart without them stepping in front of it? And I say all this to say is these are international principles. These are cultural principles. These are national principles that we've lost, and we need to weave them back into our everyday cadence. With that, I yield.
Let me say something real quick. So I just wanted to address that because I do think it's important. And that's why it's important when we have the conversation about me wearing the fez, and I'm doing it on purpose. So to trigger all those people that are triggered, I enjoy this. When we have Moors, in particular, older Moors, I'm not even going to say elder Moors, temple, not temple, whatever we're going to dispute. We're not going to talk about scattering of the flock. When they have events, when they have pictures, when they have whatever, how many times do you see the mothers and the empresses and the daughters in those actual photographs? In those events that they have, do they have a mother? Do they have someone on the panel? Do they have someone that they're talking about that's actually there to speak on behalf of the sisterhood or the motherhood? So in this process, it's not even just the protection. Yes, it is, but it's also fostering and support. We have to do better in how we have our businesses and how we create these communities so that we can hire people to work and build, and so that they can go forward and we can actually have economic stability. So remember, in order to have a household, you have to have people that provide consistently. And it's in our nature to make sure that we are going to have protection for our offspring by any means necessary. And so if we have a lot of toxic masculinity, we got a lot of things. We got a lot of brothers that have a lot of work to do. We always hear how it is our responsibility. We're fallen humanity, and we got to make sure that we take our place. But we have to be able to foster that talent and encourage that talent. How many times do we have people that the sister is at meeting, or she's shut down by one of her own, not a modern European of some other culture. We talk about within the temple or in the study group. How many times do we have it where we have mothers that might need babysitters or whatever, and maybe the children don't feel welcome to come to the study group or the temple? So yes, it's important to worry about outsiders, but we got to remember, it's always in-house that's our problem.
Ooh, we got the
we got to get the book again. Yeah. And I'm gonna buy another one. So when I was here 2017, I bought this book that's a children's book, and we read it the other day, but it's important because it talks about unity. So how is it that you can defend me outside, but you won't defend me inside? I don't want you fighting somebody outside going to jail and not going to be here to help me raise our progeny. Why don't you make sure that you're able to defend me and at a meeting with another Moor in how he talks or makes a comment? So, and I was saying this in our conversation we had privately, that we have a lot of brothers that have anger problems. And when they bring it home, they bring it to their partner or to their children. So yes, it's great to defend me outside or whatever, but you need to make sure that you're defending someone within the home, within the temple, within the community. So we got to make sure that these young sisters and mothers are safe, and you got to be in that position to be able to do so. So this is the book, The Alhambra Told to the Children. And, you know, for those of you that love books, you're a book file like I am, you can go online and be able to do so. And we're going to read from like the 3rd or 4th page. Oh, no, that's okay. Sure. Yeah.
Get Asanaya and his 007 accent to read it.
Right. This and actually, I'm just going to read it because we did it to y'all yesterday. Okay, so this is doesn't have a page number. I think it's page 4, and you can see we showed it to you yesterday here, and then we're going to read these 2 pages. So we talked about unity. So we're talking about it's backwards. We know. We're sorry, but the book, the Alhambra told to the children. So get your passport, allegedly. Buy a plane ticket allegedly and come buy the book, or go online and find the book. The Alhambra told to the children. Page 4. From all these peoples we have inherited endless things, customs, and even laws, and a multitude of words. At the beginning of the 8th century, the Moors arrived, whose religion is Islam. We call them Muslims. Mohammedans and Saracens. We call them Muslims. Mohammedans and Saracens, owing to their exploits, for they were very brave. This is respect in a children's book. They were brave. They became masters of the whole of Al-Andalus in Iberia, because it wasn't Spain yet, except for a small corner in the north. They were learned and cultivated. And they had their heyday under the Caliphate of Cordoba. But they fought amongst themselves. So I don't want you going out trying to fight no European going to get locked up. We ain't got enough money to get you out of bail. Stop it. Go to the gym. They fought amongst themselves and against the Christians, who were also Moors. So don't believe the hype. In order for them to be of noble blood, they got to be of the bloodline. So you're not having no amalgamated junks come in here that are noble. And if they lost their sense of unity and split up into a multitude of small independent kingdoms, all these different little factions of everybody want to be in front instead of having Noble Drew Ali in the front. And needless to say, the Christians took advantage of this to reconquer their land, their lands. I thought it was y'all lands. Now it says their lands. The kingdoms, and it lists the kingdoms. One of these Muslim kingdoms was the kingdom of Granada. So what we have here in this children's book is that the Moors were disunified. They had arguments. They were being petty. They were arguing if a sister could actually wear a fez, as opposed to worrying about if people don't know if they're Negro, Black, or colored. Or finding ways to work in the community and actually spread on the hedges and the highways, the works of Noble Drew Ali. So in this process, that's what I'm saying. So it's great to defend sisters outside, but we got to do the work inside. That's the stuff that people don't want to do. The ugly work, the hard work. When you got to get up in the morning and go run or walk or go to the gym, I might want to get up and do that. That's what Moore's got to do, but that work is on the inside. And it's not going to get you any views or likes. You got to do that on your own. And there are no shortcuts, what we call microwave, no quick way out of that. So yes, fight and defend and protect us, but also when you're in the temple, when you're in the study group, when you're at home, get some therapy. Get self-help books, something. Don't bring that to your relationship. Don't bring that to your children, because it's a lot of anger and we got to work on that. So how are we going to have mothers come back into their rightful place if the sons are angry and don't understand why? So that's what we're saying. Like, this work is hard, and that's why it's not for everyone.
It really isn't for everyone.
When Noble Drew Ali says only got a few, I can only count a few. Like, this is not easy. For those of us that apply, we live this. It's not a game to us.
Right.
And we take it serious.
Right.
And so when we saying that this is ours and we have a blood connection to being here in the Iberian Peninsula, all three of us have a bloodline connection to this, to the people that were here. So this is ours. And we want to make sure that we honor it. But in that process, when you have to defend yourself, you might have to do what you got to do. And you got to say something. You can't just let bad things happen or try to be passive aggressive or just pretend like it's not going to exist. Because this is supposed to be your culture.
Right.
So if that said, yes, defend us, protect us, but make sure you do it behind closed doors. when nobody's watching. Cujo. I can't.
He's boiling that tomato sauce.
Oh my gosh. What is he talking about? Is he talking about me? Oh, he's talking about me. Okay. Oh, good Lord. All right. So
And that's where I come from.
oh my goodness. And study board is on here. Islam to study board. Oh my goodness. I love the energy. So she's making spaghetti. Oh, now you in on this, Khalifa Society? This is what we doing now? Okay. I remember that. And I want some music too, since that's what we're doing. You better give me some new music. All right. So in the Alhambra, to pivot to a more Islam study more, there is a room in the Alhambra that is specifically for Washington Irving.
Mm.
And no, it's all right, Khalifa Society. I just want to. So when you get some new music, you go ahead and just send it to me so I can go ahead and get that first. So that's how we're gonna make that right. That's what you got to do. Washington Irving. If those of you have ever heard of the Headless Horseman, he also has spent some time here at the Alhambra in the 1800s.
Tales of the Alhambra.
So I would say look at the Headless Horseman and read Tales of the Alhambra. Again, how is this guy coming from somewhere in Estados Unidos having a room at the Alhambra? Because the people here don't know what they have. And so who knows what he was looking for and finding in the Alhambra.
1828.
In 1828, 1829. But he had to publish this. Remember, he's creating a narrative. We have all these orders and societies that are starting to creep up at this time. And where are they getting their information from? For their regalia, how they dress, the order. So you can find, and this book is you can find them online. This is Asanias. He just got a really good hardcover, but it's Washington Irving, Tales of the Alhambra. And the other one is The Headless Horseman. I think it was like a cartoon movie or something. And this one, it's Tales of the Alhambra.
Tales of the Alhambra, yes.
Washington Irving. Tales of the Alhambra, Washington Irving.
Backwards. I don't know why that.
Amen.
Whatever.
The frustrated diplomat. I don't know what to do. This ain't my IG.
Sleepy Hollow.
Islam, I yield the floor. Here you go. All right. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, yo. So yeah, it was a very, very, very interesting day. Very enjoyable.
Oh, and we met Syrians. We met Syrians. We met one of the most industrious Algerian women, mothers.
Best vegan food in Granada.
Oh my gosh!
Like,
hold on, did I take a picture of it? I don't think I took a picture of it. It's on my other phone.
Goodness.
If you are ever, let me try and find it on Instagram.
What did I want to say? You know, out of all the Moroccans that we met, I think only one didn't know about Al Maghreb Al Aqsa.
And that was the guy at the Carlos V, right?
Right. Who was eager to learn. The rest of them knew.
Best vegan restaurant in Granada.
Hands down.
Is it backwards?
Papas Elvira.
With a 9. But the 9's not.
In that weird accent you just did. I don't know.
Papa Elvira. You have to put a little bit of twang on there, do you know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, it was so good. Study more.
Islam, study more. Islam. How you doing, more? It's been a while.
Yeah, the food was fantastic. And I was so hungry. So I had
I'll type it in the chat, Moz, while Brother Sheldon's speaking. Right. Or do you want to type it? No,
I'll type it. Yeah, I was so hungry, man. I ate so much.
We basically took out the whole menu right there. Like
bust out the whole menu.
AS.
So this is it right here. PAPAS. ELVIR.
There we go. So we just put it in the chat right now. We're adding them.
Food is phenomenal. Vegan food, phenomenal. I ate so
but
much.
the service is even better.
Yeah, the service is even better. Yeah.
Mother has been there for over 15. She's been over 20 years.
20 years.
About, yeah.
Just
20 years.
Just working, and again, Allah's the greatest, because we went past this place yesterday.
Dumb.
Again, funny enough, you said dumb, right? So we were going to another place yesterday. Allah's the greatest of planners. We had our mindset on it. Walking.
We're in Granada right now, studying more.
When we were walking past it, I noticed it, because obviously it had vegetarian empanadas. But I don't know, we had our mindset on something, so it just didn't glow the way it was supposed to glow. On our way back after getting our falafel wraps, there was this lady. There was this lady begging, and when she asked Brother Sheldon and I for change, which we didn't have, which was honestly,
yeah,
she responded and she abused us in
French.
and she calls.
But I understand French,
right? So she called. I think she called us idiots or whatever.
Idiots, yeah.
The irony of that, she called us idiots when we were directly outside of this vegan place, right? We only realized this when we were sitting down in there, right? So it's one of those things you have to go through the journey in order to kind of find out that you were always where you were supposed to be. But today, it's sort of like the parameters have changed. We were hungry. We were looking to eat.
It was desperate. It was rough.
We were just looking to eat anything. They were going into the siesta. We're in the heart of the siesta at this point. Loads of places were closing. We had very, very limited options, and we were like, please say it's not going to be falafel again. Please say it's not going to be falafel again. We were suffering. And we went to a restaurant and they said the best vegan place is around the corner. And lo and behold, it was exactly the store we'd walked past previously. The service in there, again, going to culture and a richness. This mother had been in Granada for about 15 years. And her service was impeccable. There was a man that was homeless that had come in. Someone else came in to ask to do a favor. We were able to see so much. She was serving food. Not only was the food incredible, she served all three of us nigh on instantaneously. She ran out and did like a running order down the road. She went to go and get ingredients from the next shop. And if you see the size of what she was working with,
yeah, she's a master.
Yeah,
you will understand what being industrious is.
Yeah.
Three more, and each of us, I think, ordered like three or four things.
At least
off the menu.
Yeah, 3 or 4 things.
I couldn't even make it. I only did.
It came out one after the other. She wasn't playing.
I would have busted that piece that she didn't let you take. I would have ate that. Right?
Another kind of couple came in and they sat down. While she was still serving us, she engaged with them. They never felt like a time. And I'm saying this to say, we think that being industrious is difficult to do.
Yeah.
Do what you love and do it well.
Mm-hmm.
For the love of it.
For the love of it, right?
In terms of anything back.
If your gift and your calling is to serve others, find out how best you serve.
No, go ahead. I want to get something real quick.
Find out how best you serve, and your only job is to hone that talent, hone that skill. That's all you need to do, because the idea and the principle of build it and they will come, it will come to fruition. And when you're in your best self and you're your proper person, again, I continue to say it, it allows others to be in their presence. The moment we came in and sat down, we didn't change the energy in there. We met great energy. And I'll yield and hand over to Brother Sheldon. I think he's going to read something out of the Circle 7. You found what you want to read it?
Because I just...
well, let me just give a shout out to, I was reading that comment. Peace Morris, thank you for all your great teaching. Well, thanks to you for Lord Noah. Is that Lord Noah?
Yeah, Lord Noah C.
Yes. Where they at? Oh, that's the other stuff. Okay. Well, now we said yesterday that the Spanish government about 10 years ago did offer that you could actually, maybe we should look into, that if you could prove that you're a descendant of the people of the Iberian Peninsula, that you can get some type of reparation, etc. So I don't know how they're gonna do it. I don't know where all the records are.
Mm-hmm. But to that point, just to camel back off of Empress's point, the industriousness, and just to kind of pick that back up, and I know Brother Sheldon's going to carry on with that theme in that vein as well. Being industrious 200 years ago is different to what that means to being industrious today. Being industrious 200 years ago is different to what
or 100 years ago,
or even 100 years ago, right? Things have changed, things move on, but the passage of time is built on what came before. Let's look at how civilizations rise and fall. They rise off the back of the previous civilization. They fall, and a new civilization rises off the back of them. I say all of this to say, find your skill, master your skill, and be a service to your community, be a service to your nation, and you'll be a service to the world. It sounds very, very difficult, but it's just quite that simple. We met people today from many walks of life. The only commonality that we had is that we all met in this one place. And that is special in itself. Do you have the ability to be able to take your circumstance, transmute and transform it into something that works for you? And with that, I yield and hand over to my brother.
Right. And so to add on to that, chapter 35 in the Circle 7, chapter 35 is Holy Instructions from the Prophet, Religion. And when you go to verse 21, and I remember reading this and I highlighted this a while ago, it says, and in the laws he hath ordained as the rule of life, so kindly has he united thy duty to thy nature, that obedience to his precepts is happiness to thyself.
Ashe.
So what that says to me is what you love to do is what you're supposed to do. Once again, and in the laws he has ordained as the rule of life, so kindly has he united thy duty with thy nature. Whatever you love to do is your nature. That's your duty. Right? That obedience to his precepts is happiness to thyself. So when you're doing what you love, you're happy. Your talent or whatever it is ordained. So you're supposed to use that and do that. That's the way I look at it. That's why, well, one of the reasons why I design and stuff like that. And the more you do it, you love what you do and you vibrate on that frequency of love. Allah's in the heart, right? So I remember reading that a while ago and I highlighted that and I'm like, yo, that's been my message the whole time. So that's,
And this, let me camel back and say this, because this is when we have Moors that have the audacity to say, well, you don't need to go to school to do this. Well, what do you have to offer for them besides your opinion and nothing?
Right.
So we need to build industry. We need to build think tanks. We need to build something. And we can't do it with you being judgmental because your life didn't turn out the way that it was supposed to. So stop telling people what they shouldn't do. Mind your business. Fulfill your part of what you need to do to uplift fallen humanity. Know yourself. Stop trying to take away the light in somebody else about what they should and shouldn't do. Oh, you shouldn't play sports. Well, what the hell are they going to do if they're great? Be with you sitting on the sidelines or watching at home being mad because you didn't make the team? We have a lot of people that say a lot of things that are mean-spirited, and they're trying to use it as humor to make jokes to hurt people in the way that they're finding their way to get their light and find their joy. Stop trying to kill people's dreams because you don't like the school system or you don't think we need to work. Well, we can't go to you because you don't have a business for us to work at or for us to buy a product or a service from.
Ashe.
So we have to stop the, oh, well, you don't need to go to school. Well, what are we going to do? Look at you all day? We have to work. We have to take care of our loved ones. We can't just sit at home all day. I don't know what you do. Like, we got to stop this. Don't tell people not to go to school or not to be an architect or be a doctor. When some of y'all keep eating that ratchet shit, you're going to get sick. You need somebody to perform, and you hope it will be a more to perform a service on you. We got to do better. Like this, don't you go to school? Like that, like who are you? You're the antithesis of our ancestors. We built schools. You tell people don't go to school. Like, does that make sense?
Oldest university in the world is in Timbuktu, replicated
in Morocco,
right?
We don't want to. Well, don't go to school, but we're the inventors of school.
We don't need that.
This is how so smart you stupid. This is how you sounded like the European that got mad because he didn't know what he was talking about. Stop talking. Stop trying to down people because your life didn't pan out the way it was supposed to. Encourage people to uplift themselves and fulfill their dreams. They're going to find out what they need to do. We got to stop. Don't you go to school? Don't you? What are we supposed to do? How are we going to have a nation if it takes finance? The prophets, like, how are we going to have it if we don't work and create and build and design? Oh no, don't go to school. Don't do this. Don't do that. That sounds what a war does. That sounds like a slave.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do better. So when you hear someone say, don't go to school because the school, well, okay, well then since you're so smart, did you homeschool your children? And if I did a Lexile reading test, what would their scores be? Everybody can't do something just because you want to do it. Everybody can't be Michael Jordan. Remember somebody called Baby Jordan?
How many people were called the next Michael Jordan while Jordan was playing? Which
right.
Doesn't make any sense.
Be wary of people called the reincarnation of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. How many of these people, we know it, if you've done your due diligence, that are trying to camelback off of the hard work and effort of Noble Drew Ali, fame and nobility. Stop telling young people to not go to school or to not do something when you don't have anything to offer them as an alternative. You keep telling me that you're enlightened and you represent our ancestors, but you're telling people to dim their light. And you have nothing to offer. Show us that you can build something and we'll support you. Mm-hmm. But we have to stop with this negative, I don't want to say, what is it? It's like we're fighting against ourselves. Don't go to school, but we are the inventors of higher education and actual letters. Yeah. PhDs are from our ancestors, but don't get a PhD.
Dogmatic schism, really.
What is this? This is how sick we are. Don't go to school and be a doctor. Well, what do you want them to do? So these are the things that it's common sense. And I think it's so important when we're talking about seeing the light in someone and having the audacity to think that because you think you know something about Moorish history, or you went to a temple meeting, or you dreamt about Noble Drew Ali, that you have the ability to tell a child, don't go to school because the schools don't teach about Moors. Well, you're supposed to know about your own culture. So I just want to say that because I think in the spirit of what Sheldon so eloquently read, in that process of how many of our young progeny, how many of your children are inspired to do great, in addition to them honoring Noble Drew Ali. So they still have to live their lives. And some of you can course correct too, but we got to do a better job. And that includes me too. Islam. I'm done for the night.
Islam, Empress, Islam. There's not much to add.
I'm done.
Off the back of the camelback of Empress, but just I had the privilege of going to a school a few weeks, actually no, a week before I came to meet the Moors, and it was a school for young students that were preparing to go to high school, which would be the equivalent of high school, so secondary school. And they were having to think about what life could be for them. Obviously, it's still very early. They have some basis of understanding, but it's just like giving them an idea to get them thinking, because they don't have to make these decisions yet. However, I asked one simple question and the response was saddening, because it's not so much the response from these young children, it was the look in their eyes when they responded. So I asked them, we were talking about work experience, and we were saying that, do you have any idea what it is that you want to do, or
field of profession that you want to go in. Now, all of these were undeclared. Moors, Asiatics, modern Europeans, they were unconscious. And the objective of this session was not to awaken them. It was purely just to give them some tools and understanding so they can navigate in this very, very difficult world, and ever-changing, ever difficult world. I say this to say, ask them one question. Do you have anybody in your family that inspires you? And I rephrase the question. Is there anybody that does something, whether it's a job, they have a skill that makes you excited, that you're encouraged to say, I would like to learn about that one day? And I think there was not a single Asiatic child within that I spoke to that said yes. There wasn't a mother, brother, father, uncle, auntie that they were able to recognize as an inspiration. It's not to say that these families weren't doing inspirational things, but it just goes to the idea of that's also part of homeschooling. Teaching your offspring and your progeny the possibilities of what's available to them, but also letting them understand the structure of the current world, because I can't innovate something if I don't know that it already exists. I'm going to continue to try and, as the peon said earlier on, discover something that already exists, right? So it's to that point, that's also part of the homeschooling. Like, be that inspiration. If you can't do anything else, if it's too difficult, and this might be too big of a task.
Support somebody, donate, support somebody. You know what I mean? Give them some money to go to college, to go to a football camp, a basketball camp, to go to something where they're going to science, STEM, art, music, literature. We need to encourage the arts and science. So those of you that are big money grips out here, find a child and sponsor them to go to a summer camp.
Agreed.
You know?
And to Empress's point, in terms of, if you can do nothing else, we were in a bookstore today, and a book Brother Sheldon picked up was about Islamic design and the mathematical kind of mindset behind sacred geometry. And the moment he started flipping through some of the books, I'm like, oh, Brother Sheldon, don't need to buy that book. I've already got it on my shelf in a different form. It's part of a compendium. And the reason why I mentioned it is, so what Empress was talking about into the idea of sponsoring someone, the trivium, the arts we talk about, right? The 7 liberal arts. The trivium, one of the key arts is rhetoric, the ability to form an argument. How can you critically think if you can't form an argument?
Hold on. Let me.
So
just for the, I'm trigger warning.
So, and the other, that's the 3, right? The
Trigger warning.
The trivium's the 3, right?
Trigger warning. Woman in affairs. Oh my goodness. Let's get a fatwa. Oh my God, we gotta come to Granada and get her. You can try it if you want.
Prepared. But so the trivium is the 3, right? The quadrivium is the 4.
She's not.
Right? So Empress is not done. Empress is not done until she says she's done, right? And there's also, so going back to what I was saying about Rajot, but there's also another compendium, which is called the Designium. You can get them on Amazon. But I say all this to say in terms of most of the information that we're finding out there in terms of it's ancient knowledge that keeps being regurgitated, modularized, and repackaged. And then each time you do that, as the same way that when you transliterate something or translate something, meaning is lost. So we ourselves need to understand this in terms of practical terms for ourselves. So if you understand how to build an argument yourself, you understand how to break down an argument. You understand how to deconstruct a narrative that someone has put together. And that way you can educate the offspring with critical. You don't need to teach them how to be a lawyer, doctor. That's a profession. You need to teach them the basic skills of understanding of how to erudite themselves and how to learn.
Okay, I'm not done. Everybody can't teach. Let's just be honest.
That too.
So we got to be honest. And so my undergrad was not in education. It was in international affairs and political science. I did get a diploma in secondary education for social studies, which is interdisciplinary, economics, geography, civics, and history. So when we're talking about skill set, those of you with little ones during the pandemic, you understood how challenging it was for you. So, but these are things we need people that have the patience and the gift to know how to do so. Just because you know something doesn't mean that you're going to be a good teacher.
That's real.
And we know that obviously mother and in the womb is the first learning spot, right? But the environment. So there's all debates about nature nurture, but the point I'm making is you need to learn rhetoric. You can't teach nothing that you don't know. And this is the challenge. This is the rub. That's what we're saying. Like it's very important to find people that are talented. So the fact that we're Moors and we have proclaimed and declared our nationality, we need to attract talented people to be a part of this movement, right? We have to have people we can't disrespect people because you disagree with them. You can't create a fatwa and go try to beat them up or threaten them because you disagree with them. Now, if they're violating the prophet and doing something else, then that's obviously scimitar season. But in this time, we have to be able to have a frustrated diplomat, a semi-angry assassin, and someone that loves to chat with you. So in this process, and a lot of us don't like to read, like we got to find a way. So you can't teach something that you don't know how to do. And we got to be careful. Like you don't want the children to not be ready. Just because you don't want them in the system, you need to do your due diligence and find a Montessori school or someone in the community that at least loves your child, will respect them and be able to honor them and teach them to the best of their ability. Islam. Oh, I have those.
Right. You have your
man, y'all aren't designers, man. That one's mine.
And you have Scientia, and I'm gonna bring up the quadrivium as well.
Oh, I have that one.
You have the quad as well?
Yeah.
Quadrivium. If you do nothing else for yourself and your offspring, learn the several liberal arts.
Get the audio book, listen to it like 7 times, and then get the actual hard copy and then read that. So listen to the book online and then, or buy both and listen and then go and read the book separately. It's going to take you some time. Just because you want to be good doesn't mean you're going to be able to do that. And we have to look at our own learning deficiencies as we're communicating what we're trying to do. And the key aspect is communication. You have to be able to break it down when you're trying to explain. Everybody learns differently. I have the ability to take a lot of information in at one time and chew it up and be able to put my spin on it. Some people can't. They're just going to repeat and regurgitate. And that's what we have. People that repeat and regurgitate, that means they don't know because they haven't applied it. And there's nothing wrong with it. But we got to do better. 7 generations is what the standard of our ancestors, and we can barely make it through this one. And I'm just telling you that the divine aspect of who we are, once we activate, proclaim, and declare, we are light years ahead of people that have high degrees and are in pretty decent, powerful positions. They don't know. And the system works because our ancestors made it so you only know what you need to know at this level. When they say need to know basis.
Empress Commission said levels of this.
So like they when you think that your mayor or whoever, yeah, they know what a fez is. They go to the lodge, but they don't know about our culture like that. Now, the people that you've never seen before, they know because they have the libraries. They have all the art in their, that's when you go to the great museums. These people own and donate them. They're on loan from these families.
Part of the contract.
So how many people do we have that study art history? How many people love, we got to be more diverse, but we have to make people attractive and comfortable to do that.
Right.
Islam.
And I always say that inspiration comes from the top down. Cujo, hint, hint.
Ooh. Oh, it's
right.
Cujo, where are you?
He's there.
Call him. He needs to come up on since he want to talk today.
Because Cujo has so much knowledge.
Yeah, but he doesn't have time. He's like
that too. So
because he's too busy chopping heads off.
Yeah, I think by you saying that the diversity, yeah, I agree. It's let me not say that,
Say
but
it.
yeah, I agree. Diversity needs to be there.
I will change it. When we say diversity, some people believe they comprehend what that means. Diversity isn't only in looks, it's diversity of thought.
Yes,
Which
that's
is
what
more
I'm talking
important.
about.
Diversity of
That's what I'm talking
thought,
about.
diversity of skill,
That's what I'm talking
diversity of
about.
aptitude, diversity of application,
Right.
and diversity of endeavor as well. Like some people are the worker bees, and it's okay for them to be the worker bees. We should leave them to be the worker bees. You shouldn't try and raise the worker bee to be a leader, respectfully, before their time. But the leader must also realize they can only lead an erudite flock. So a leader's job is to elevate the followers.
Say it again. Say it.
Otherwise, you become the Judas goat. And if you know who the Judas goat is, we were talking about the Judas goat yesterday. That's Lucy. That's Lucy. That's false light.
Let me pull it up. Hold on.
Right?
Let me pull it up for you.
So we all know how the ability to be able to, take the chains off myself so I can place them very loosely upon my brother. When you see your brother messing up or your sister messing up, and you don't correct them in a respectful manner, out of love, you fail the nation.
Word.
Because if I can't check my brother at home and I allow my brother to walk out with dirt on his face, I allow my whole family to be besmirched on the streets. So with that, I'll yield. But don't be the Judas goat. Don't be Lucy.
Oh, let me find the crown real quick.
I mean, we've had Lucy for too long. Come on, man. We need to get some Yeshua back up in here, all right?
For real.
Let's get that Christos going again. And don't just say it. Let's not talk about it, let's be about it.
Right.
I'll say this. I had the privilege of coming into this movement, and I had some serious erudite Moors that I don't think you remember. 3 years ago, this Moor challenged all of the Moors at the UK to link up with each other.
And he's the only one.
To link up with each
Asana
other.
is the only one that actually did something.
And we couldn't, for whatever reason, I tried to facilitate it. We couldn't find ways to link up with Moors in at the UK, at Britain, for whatever reason.
Cujo, man. Right.
This relationship has been formed from. I met the Grand Sheik at Canaanland. I met the Moors. I met all the Moors at Subordinate Temple 5 before I even met Moors in my jurisdiction. When you are willing to move, mountains, heavens, and the earth will move for you.
That's real.
Because the idea of, if you've ever watched The Matrix, let's go a little bit pop culture. The idea of bending the spoon, Matrix 1, when Neo goes to the bald boy, and tries to bend the spoon. What does the boy say to him? Trying to bend the spoon is stupid. Instead, realize that there is no spoon. It is you that bends. When the center moves, you are the center. When the center moves, everything around the center has no choice but to fall in place. So if you imagine yourself to be the center of the universe, whether it's heliocentric, whatever cosmology you're going to go with, the moment you move, you pull things in your orbit. You pull things in your orbit. So have the presence of mind, the strength of will, and the strength of character to just be your own center. Move with your own gravity and see what happens. And with that, I'll yield.
Say to that.
Lucy, be careful of who's trying to give you a position, trying to crown you. That is not Yeshua.
And the symbolism, you always see Lucy pop up in red. Isa, Yeshua, that's that dualistic energy because it's about the transformation, it's about the blending.
Yeah.
The red and the blue comes together to make the purple polarity, which is the higher self, that nobility. So if you're coming purely from one pole, you're missing something. you're missing something. We need the balance,
Which is the crown chakra, which is purple.
right? Masculine, the feminine, all of those principles, bringing them together, the physical, the spiritual, bringing them together. That yield.
You got any questions? I got 5 minutes for questions.
Empress says you got 5 minutes.
No,
Get some
not
good
for
ones
me.
in. Get some good,
Not for
no,
me.
these are
No.
questions for Empress. Get them
No. No.
Yeah.
See, when we get a chance to get Empress, we try and get as much out of her, right? You heard on this live. I think that's the first time you ever
Squeeze the orange juice,
mentioned,
man. Get
like,
that orange juice.
how much erudition you actually have. Like, very, very well studied and very well cultured.
She traveled more than me. She's like 90.
Where are we at now? How many countries now?
356.
Shut up. There's only 195 countries. I've
Yeah,
only
but you
been to
traveled,
like
but you
60
traveled to
something.
Mars and all that stuff.
In my dreams.
Not talking about the work on the ancestral plane. How many destinations you visited on the physical?
Like 60 something.
60 something.
So
I'm at 30.
That's not even nothing, y'all.
I'm at 32, 33 or something.
That's not nothing. It's not even.
Yeah.
I'm not even mentioning how, in comparison to these two months, they're gonna sound me. We're just gonna keep quiet, right? But we say all this to say in terms of this is not talking out of the neck, right? Like people, we aren't just going at the we aren't just basically going to, like, you know, our local supermarket, you know, we're saying to you more online in terms of, oh, the fairs, and you know, we go to our local and someone calls it a bucket, and we're like, yeah, it's the bucket. No. It's real. You have to live this, because if you're not willing to live this in the serious vein that it is, someone will make it serious for you. We told you, people were stalking us around the city. People will find a way to try and mess up your energy.
Every week, man.
Yeah,
They're gonna
Right?
try.
Mess up your harmonics. Like, it's so easy to fall off your square if you don't see it, and you don't always kind of keep your foot.
We see you coming a mile away.
Yeah, just
You ain't gonna get me, not today.
Like-
Definitely not in the feds. You ain't gonna get me today.
like.
And you know, it's interesting because some people that we met, they thought it was fake. Get your weight up, right? And
Brother Sheldon,
I was just like, look, I was like, don't think it's fake. Like this card, yeah. Jaleel. This card with my fez on. This card with my fez on. Medical card with my fez on. This card with my fez. It's not fake.
I'll take
It's not
your
fake.
suspicion and I'll raise you a medical
They
card.
don't care.
I'll raise you a nationality card.
You know what I'm saying?
They're mad. They don't care about what we have as evidence. They don't care about how many books and sources we have. They're mad that we're walking around with the fences on.
It's even worse that we have books and
And the
evidence,
fact that
right?
I am walking around and I don't even have to say anything. And again, one more story. We go to this shawarma place. The first guy that we had, he was cool, good vibes. New guy, he was a little awkward. It was a little weird. I'm like, I'm not gonna let you make me another wrap. I don't like your energy. You're not gonna make nothing that I'm not gonna eat it. We understand the alchemy of that. And if you don't, do your due diligence. So we go back and I'm like, I'm not eating, but I'm hungry AF, but I am not eating from what you're cooking. Never will I eat anything that you're cooking. So I don't say anything. It's not, I'm like, his energy is messed up. I'm not gonna say nothing. He's like, you hate me. Why don't you like me? I don't know you, sir. I don't know you. But that's what he said. Like he felt guilty. He was like, kill me. I was like, no, you felt guilty because you were wrong. You know what I'm saying? So, oh, we have questions?
No, well, what I'm saying, like, what about the passport? Yes, the passport that I use, fez is on. Absolutely. Everything.
No, that's not what he's asking, but be more specific in your question. We ain't doing no general whatevers.
Because I was saying that everything that I have, every picture is I'm always in habit. If it's not the fez, it's a turban. But all my, like, the IDs that I have, fez in every single one.
Who said that question? So you take all of your cards, pics in your fez. It's your national headdress.
It's my national headdress. It's not a joke to me, man. It's not a joke.
Some of us live this.
Yeah, I know. Jaleel is old. Every time I see Jaleel, when Jaleel There's probably like 1 or 2 videos where I see him where he wasn't in habit, but he's always in habit.
But again, that's not a requirement. It's great if you do so, but like we cannot make unrealistic challenges for everybody. It's finances, it's a lot of stuff that comes into play. You just proclaiming and declaring your more is all that Noble Drew Ali said you have to do.
Yeah, that's all you have to do. Yeah.
Empress is only sensitive because really and truly, like, we have to accept, like, as
who said what?
No, Empress said this stuff is sensitive. It's because people aren't erudite.
But what does she mean it's sensitive?
No, people are. This stuff is sensitive in terms of like it's an inflammatory conversation in terms of for some people, right? And you're right, but if you think about it, it something only becomes inflamed when something is out of order, right? It's out of whack, and the inflammation is actually the process of the body trying to fix it. If you think about it, it's awareness and the body trying to find a way to fix it. And I say this to say in terms of if there isn't friction, there isn't inflammation, there isn't. Yeah, as Grancy said, stop trying to be motherfucker. Like you can't
exactly.
You can't mollycoddle bullshit. Like without just cutting the crap, right? You can't hang on to something and hold on to something that's a detriment to the both of you, because now you're not doing a service to yourself or doing a service to your brother or sister, right? Empress, do you want to answer that question? Why is there so much smoke about a Moabite wearing a fez?
You can look at. We're not gonna rehash that. You can. That's why it's okay. It's just a distraction. It's a red herring. But I will say this. So for your the way that you apply what you live, how are you doing anything if there's no movement? Movement means that there's going to be friction just based off of science. So force times mass equals acceleration. So we have to move. So in the process of what do you want to do, again, those of you that are interested in this, you need to dedicate time to study. Me telling you isn't going to answer the question for you. And for most of you, you're only going to hear what you want to hear. What's the question?
So wait, study more. You saying you do, but you be running into nonsense. What are you talking about?
That's him.
You do what? Are you saying that you have? Are you saying that you in all your identification you have your fez on, and you see you running into nonsense with that? Is that what you're talking about?
He needs to just come on quickly and say what he needs to say so we can get out of here. Some say what?
That's cool, Joe. Some say yes, some say no. FOH to the knowers.
I think it's talking about the reference about the passport office. Yeah, sure. Jalil requested to go live. Remember?
Oh, well,
Then they have a question. Just you got like 2 minutes. Let them go. Let them add. Can they just add on there? They want to request to be a part of it.
Yeah, you requested during the live.
You want to go live? We may answer a question.
Jalil, if you want, I guess come on, sure. We need more patience with each other. Absolutely. Yeah, Jalil, if you want to come on, go ahead.
I agree, Empress.
We have to be clear. So when you're communicating with people, be specific, Moors.
Patience is a virtue, though, right? And it must be cultivated. So, we are in today. It's 2 a.m. There's no time for patience. It's the truth. Like, how long? I think there was a question that was asked to a guru that said that, Guru, how many times?
It's not working, Jalil.
How many times should I allow someone to offend me before I cut them off? And the guru responded in terms of, I think it was Sadhguru that said this. How many times do you have to drink poison before it kills you?
Right.
Can you just type your question briefly into the chat so we can do our best to answer?
So the idea
that would be cool if Jalil, if there's something you want to add, maybe type it in.
So, definitely. So if there's idea of patience, it's what you're being patient for. And if it's beneficial to both you and the other person, but sometimes that your patient might be misconstrued. It's not actually patience, it's misguided weakness. you're not actually clear on what it is that you actually need to say to this person, so you're allowing them to waste your time while you figure it out.
And remember, there's no microwave way. This is self-study. This is work where you have to know what you want to do and what you need to do for yourself. Stop asking people to guide you for your light. You're supposed to know who you are.
That's the question.
So what about economic trade between body politics? Are you all prepared to do trade?
Okay, who has a body politic? With what services or products do they have? I told you, your shadow man.
You made it. Well, you made it.
So we're talking about jurisdictions. The Moorish Science Circle of America by Noble Drew Ali is our body politic. You're part of a temple, that's your body politic. So whatever that product or service is from the temple, it's supposed to be in the temple's name, da 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 da. All these things start there. So I don't know what body politic you have outside of the temple, because that will come through your grand sheik and the chairman, da 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 da. That's through them. So if you have a business, that's different, but this is common sense, right? Like we do business with people that we want to do business with. So that's like, so these are things that when you have people on, okay, well then, okay, so you have your own business and you have your own product or service, and it would be beneficial or behoove you to do business with many people as possible so you can be profitable. Don't just do business with just Moors. That don't even make sense. We have trade with everybody all over the planet. Like that. I mean, for me as a businesswoman, I want to limit my business. Never saw that politic question in the chat. It must be
somebody that blocked me.
No, that's not how it works here.
That's not how I work.
Okay, I don't know what that means.
Okay.
Business is business. Don't take the bait. I don't. So I don't. Again, specific. Like I don't. But one cannot assume that.
Yeah, you're correct. Yeah. So to the point that you made in terms of, so one of the key reference points that
ask the question, don't want the answer.
One of the key reference points that that actually allowed us to actually navigate.
Yes, your shadow.
The one that allowed us to navigate conversations with people today was the conversation of trade. Empress made the point that, so wherever, again, if we can agree on a few things, tell me what you believe and I can answer the rest for you, right? So wherever we start with the culture, you give me your cultural reference point. So Empress, when she said that she was speaking with the Mexicans, you go to the Toltecs, you go to, as she was able to tell them who they traded with and the route. So in terms of, you don't have to follow the migrations of what people believe to be skin color or whatever it is in practice. Follow the trade, because people understand how to follow money. If you're in business, you understand how to follow money. You understand that money or finance or currency has no lines. Finance and currency is international. So not to answer your question, but answer your question generally, not only would it behoove you to engage with more than Moors, for the simple reason it would actually enrich the nation. That's how we enrich the nation, in terms of, you go out to other cultures, you go out to other societies, you find out the best that they have, and we trade with the best that we have.
Is that Manchuria? Jalil's at Manchuria.
Okay, so but this is the question. Why are we asking questions about something? Where's the product or the service? What is the product or the service that you want to trade? Why are we speaking in theoretical nothingness?
And if you do want to do that, like,
let me just say it this way. When people that are successful business people, they don't have time to waste. They are about their time, or if you can hear people say, I don't know if time is money, but I know time is something that everybody can't get back. So why are we wasting it? When we have people on that have spent some time, that have some experience, you need to be able to ask specific questions with what's the intention or purpose. It's not about, we're not going to debate people. We're not going to talk about what you subscribe or what you want to do. The key, what do you say?
To type, yeah. That's why he wanted to come on.
Okay, well, but so like the question, what's the product or service that you have to trade? And where do we get information